I've had many amazing teachers, some in the classroom, some outside the classroom. I truly believe that education is all around us and education is everywhere. My most fondest memory is Mrs. Johnson. She was my fourth grade, fifth grade teacher, I can't remember. But Miss Johnson was just absolutely gorgeous. She was thoughtful, she was kind, she was stern. And I grew up in upstate New York, Rochester, New York, and she was Southern. She came from Louisiana. And I was just in love with Mrs. Johnson. But what was so telling about her is that my mother was scared of Mrs. Johnson. And my mother is scared of no one. And when I realized that my mother, who's probably the toughest woman you ever gonna meet, was scared of Mrs. Johnson, it scared everything out of me. But it was a level of respect that my mother had for Mrs. Johnson. My mother saw how hard she worked. My mother saw how dedicated she was. And my mother saw that she loved us. And then the very next year, I had my first black male teacher. His name was Mr. Clayton. Amazing man. And he called us all by our last name. So he would say, Love, get over here. And I remember Mr. Clayton because I was just beginning to play basketball. I didn't know if I was good or not. I was trying to figure it out. And I was a latchkey kid. So my parents, working class kid, my parents went to work. They left me at home. I knew to leave when G.I. Joe went off. But I started playing basketball, so I would leave early to play basketball, leave really early. As soon as my parents left, I would leave to go play basketball. And I would be playing basketball all morning before school. And I didn't bring a change of clothes, so I would walk into the school building looking a mess. I wanted to play basketball all morning. And Mr. Clayton came to me one day, he said, Love, I see you out there playing basketball, and I see that you're pretty good. But you gotta bring a change of clothes to my classroom. You can't keep coming to my classroom looking a mess. And at that moment, he said it with so much love and so much care, and it was so endearing. And I knew that he'd been watching me and that he was looking after me. And after that, I started bringing ironed clothes to his classroom, play basketball in the mornings. Before I got to his class, I would change my clothes and be ready to learn from Mr. Clayton. So Mrs. Johnson and Mr. Clayton were two teachers who just changed my life. And then when I got into my PhD program, I had an amazing mentor and scholar who really just changed the way I thought about black children and black culture and African culture by the name of Asa Hillard, who was a giant to me. And then in my PhD, when I got my first job teaching, another woman came into my life by the name of Cynthia Dillard. Another just amazing, loving, kind, thoughtful scholar who just really helped me become a scholar. And so I've just had amazing mentors and teachers who've just shown me how to be a loving and kind and thoughtful human being. And I hope to always pass on what they taught me.